Don't jump that shark just yet. It's time for marketing management. Welcome back to the show. Clearly, I'm dressed down a little bit more than usual today in honor of the fact that we're talking about innovation and ideation, a subject that's near and dear to my heart. Obviously, I've got this red shirt on to show the fire and passion that I feel for this. I wish I had some flames on the shirt, but I've just got this kind of tree and some random birds or something like that on it. This show is all about creativity. No, wait a minute. No, it's not. Rewind that. This show is all about problem solving. When you use the term creativity, a lot of people get scared and think that you have to be some sort of crazy artist in order to ideate, and this simply is not true. Ideation is all about problem solving, being able to identify problems and opportunities and then simply act on them. The goal is to get us out of our traditional linear mindset, to be able to look where others are not looking. That's innovation. A key way of doing this is something that's called cross-industry innovation. In essence, what you do is you look at other industries and the cool things that they're doing, and then you borrow from them. That's differentiation. As an example, TD Bank of Canada ostensibly borrowed from Coke's Happiness Machine. Now, both of these companies created machines and placed them so that they could foster stronger interactions with their customers and create a more custom, personalized experience. They were both also smart enough to record these interactions and post them online so that tens of millions of people could see them. The video game industry is starting to be used from a virtual reality standpoint inside of operating rooms in the medical field. Car dashboards are being designed after video game controllers. Pit stops from race car tracks are being used to redesign fast food drive-thrus. The key is to take something else and mash it together with your brand. In line with this, I use a technique called mashup. In this method, what we're doing is looking at other companies or other industries and seeing what's excellent about them, drawing off of the things that they're doing well, and then bending our brands to figure out how to incorporate these into our offerings. For example, you might mash together your brand with Southwest Airlines and Airbnb. From Southwest Airlines, you take the no predetermined seats policy and bring that in. And from Airbnb, you bring in the sharing economy aspects along with the consumer-to-consumer marketplace. So maybe as a function of Airbnb, you contemplate how some of your customers can help other customers do certain bits of work. And from Southwest Airlines, you determine that everybody should start out at the same level of service, but as people show greater and greater levels of loyalty, they can earn status and preferential treatment. I do entire courses in something called design thinking, but for the purposes of this segment, I'm just going to distill down a couple of the key concepts. And the first of which is about openness and playfulness. Somewhere along the way, we all tend to lose our sense of playfulness and openness. It's kind of like in that movie Hook with Robin Williams, where he used to be Peter Pan, but then somehow he grows up and he loses his ability to imagine. You also want to be able to move between a state of divergence of ideas and convergence of ideas. Now, divergence of ideas is all about getting as many ideas on the table as possible so that we have many different things that we can choose from, many different ways to solve a problem or to create opportunities. Convergence allows us to hone those opportunities into something that's actually doable and we can move forward. Staying in either state for too long is going to undoubtedly harm your innovation process. You've diverged too long, and it's like being that artist that throws spaghetti on the wall and then starts to look for patterns in it. Convergence, however, is that opposite problem where everybody's trying to be right and wants to be right now. We need to find a healthy balance between diverging and creating enough opportunities and converging so that we hone opportunities and are able to actually move forward and take action. Fortunately, you don't have to be the creative type. There are sets of exercises that you can do, and I've put some of these online to help you open up your mind and your way of thinking about things. The key thing here is to understand that there are no right and no wrong answers. There is no success and there is no failure. Doing these exercises again and again and again is just going to allow you to open up your ways of thinking. Use these exercises like brain teasers that are there to open up your mental constraints. These can be really challenging at first because most of us have been trained into having a linear thought process throughout our lives. We're used to following set policies and procedures. So you ask yourself, what's an okay way to do this and what's not an okay way to do this? The first one is called 30 circles. The goal is to draw as many recognizable objects using circles in 3 minutes. These could be soccer balls, smiley faces, whatever. The key is to try to do as many as possible. Now bear in mind that there is no way to do 30 of these in 3 minutes, and you'll be amazed at how fast time flies. The point is not to actually do 30 of these or to impress yourself or your friends. The goal is really to think and change perspectives again and again. It's not a test. Don't take it seriously. Treat it like making and throwing a paper airplane or cooking dinner. The second one is called invent a sport. Using items around your house or your office, create a new sport. At first, these sports may resemble existing sports like throwing paper into a waste paper basket. Again, the goal is to push yourself to imagine something different. What does it actually mean to have a sport? What sport motions are less mainstream? Maybe gymnastics or fly fishing. By doing these exercises, your brain will begin to search for alternative perspectives on other things in your life, such as how do you solve problems professionally? A good acronym to incorporate in all of your ideation thinking is something called SCAMPER. Now, SCAMPER stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to a different use, eliminate, and reverse. Thinking about this acronym as you ideate will help you open up your perspective and to redefine. Substitution, for example, is like Diet Coke substituting in artificial sweeteners like aspartame for corn syrup sweeteners. Combining is like Bird taking Uber's concept of the sharing economy in vehicles and combining that together with scooters. Adaptation is about taking things that exist in one environment and then shifting them over to another environment. Cell phones are really an adaptation of the original landline that allowed phones to be able to move to different locations. Now, modern cell phones are actually then a modification of the original cell phones. Apple was really among the first to modify the cell phone to have the additional touchscreen features, allow apps to be on them, to house entertainment and music and internet searches and all kinds of things like that. Arm & Hammer baking soda is a great example of a product that's been put to alternate uses. Obviously, it started out for cooking purposes, but once they realized the odor reduction properties, the applications became numerous. Additionally, duct tape is actually terrible for sealing ducts, but it's really good for making boats and flashy suits and all kinds of other things. Elimination often deals with unnecessary or undesirable steps in a process. Think about going to the grocery store these days with the self-checkout lanes. You're eliminating the need for employees, you're eliminating the need for bagging and all kinds of things that the customer is now going to have to do. And in fact, it makes the process that much faster and the customer is that much happier to be able to go through that process themselves and get out the door. Reversing is where we kind of go in the opposite direction of what's already there. So if we're really fast right now, what might it look like if we were slower and more deliberate? Geritol is actually a really great example of this, where all the other multivitamins were screaming mega doses and getting all this stuff when they realized, like, you don't want a mega dose on a vitamin. It can actually be damaging to you. So they decided to promote a balanced formula. When you ideate, again, try to get at those deeper issues, that feel word that I've talked about before. Coca-Cola, for example, isn't simply just a caffeinated product that provides thirst quenching. It's something that amps people up, makes them feel excited, or it can also provide a sense of relief and comfort. People don't buy insurance simply because they make the mental cost-benefit trade-off. Insurance provides a sense of reassurance or relief. Most people, in fact, hope to never have to cash in on their insurance. Look to create things that have a feel around them, like inspired or accepted or relevant. These things are far more rooted in our self-esteems. And remember that self-esteem is really, really, really important. And it's a key driver of our behaviors. So it's a key driver of consumer behaviors in general. Also, don't simply take things at face value as they are. Work on indirect associations, just like a word association test, so that if I say the word green, some people are going to say money, some people are going to say grass, some people are going to say red. And this also underscores the richness of having a diversity of opinions weighing in on the same kinds of things, and why it's so valuable to have lots of different minds functioning together in order to ideate. By adding associations to things, you expand your gaze and thus increase the probability that you're going to make new connections and be able to ideate better. For example, let's think about if you're making pizzas and you want to make more money. What are sort of the obvious answers there? Well, you could simply make more pizzas, have more promotions. You could have more stores. Let's go a little bit deeper, a little less linear. You put pizza sauce on your pizza and that's what people really like. Well, you could package that and sell it through grocery stores. Nice, but that's still just a little bit linear. And how defensible is this position? Think about other competitors in the pizza market. You've got Papa John's, you've got Domino's. Is it defensible or differentiable at all for you to be able to compete against them on pizza sauce alone? Probably not. Now think about what pizza might mean more generally. Do you think of things like Italy, or family, or Friday movie nights together? These are the things that you really want to begin to associate to stretch your mind on what you could actually do with a pizza service offering. Are you providing wholesome entertainment? Are you providing a sense of belonging and acceptance? Are you providing fun and entertainment? We can bring these back to the product table and create a much richer experience for our customers around the concept of pizza. Why, for example, does Snapple have a bunch of fun facts on the bottoms of their bottle caps? I guarantee you it's not because it's cost effective to do so, but it's there because it enhances the customer's experience in that beverage consumption. Let's talk with an advertising and innovation expert and see what he has to say about identifying and acting on opportunities. Alan Gibson, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show. You've got a pretty eclectic background, over 40 years in advertising, plus novel writing, indie film production at this point, and now also a language instructor, also currently the co-founder and chairman of OneClick.chat, which, by the way, that's what we're in right now. So in thinking about your background, I kind of want to start with the interesting aspect that you've got a undergraduate degree in French and literature, right? Or French language and literature.
Just French. Yep.
Okay. So what was the progression of that into advertising and then all of these other amazing things that you've done with your career?
Wow. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. I love participating in WNL events of all kinds. So this is really lots of fun. Right after college, I got a job teaching French at a prep school in Washington, D.C. It was actually Bethesda. And it was, I think, looking back, it's still the best job I ever had. I loved everything about it. And I got to go to Europe every summer, sometimes twice.
Bummer.
It was a great job. I fell in love with DC and ultimately moved there. After several years teaching, I decided to go to grad school. I went to Georgetown and pursued a degree, a master's PhD program in linguistics. And somewhere along the line, my dad said, "Hey, what about a job?" and so I said, "Yeah, it's probably time." Anyway, so that was really kind of what drove me to my first job my second job really was my dad. And back then it was really interesting. I had no idea what to do. As you said, very generously, I have a very eclectic background, and I continue to, because I just have so many interests, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I had already taught French, so I used that degree, but I just didn't know. I didn't want to be a lawyer like all my friends. I just didn't know. What I did though was this thing that it was sort of a technique that people used back then to help, you find a path for your career. And that was, list your strengths, list your weaknesses. And I started listing my strengths and listing my weaknesses. And one of my weaknesses was, oh my God, I never get anything done until the day it's due, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and I started looking at these things. I thought, you know what? I think my weaknesses are my strengths. And I flipped the columns. And it turns out that, advertising was like the perfect career for me because it was all about deadlines. At WNL, I was just telling some people earlier today, we were on a call. We have 4 WNL interns for the summer. And I said, I was never late for a paper, but I'm telling you, at 11:59 p.m., there I was sliding it underneath the door of the.
Sorry, I just went click to submit. You're back. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had we had to type it and, fold it and stick it under the, and it was an honor system. So they just assumed that I'd put it in before midnight. But anyway, so it was all about deadlines. And I thought, I wonder if there's a business that works on deadlines. And I hadn't even thought about advertising. There was another factor, and this is a reference that's too old for your class probably, but there was this great show on TV that ran forever called the Dick Van Dyke Show, and he had a job, and I was looking back, I didn't even remember what the job was, but I remember he was in this office and he had two sidekicks, Rosemary and Maury Amsterdam anyway. And there was always some boss yelling at him to get stuff done from upstairs. And they had a blast doing whatever they did. They scrambled, but they got creative and they did. And I thought, that's the kind of job I want. I want a job like Dick Van Dyke. Well, I ended up having that for most of my life. I ended up in advertising. I had my Maury, I had my Rosemary, I had the art director, I had, copywriters and stuff. And it was the best job I ever had. I mean, that I could dream for, because it was as creative as it could possibly be. And then there were all these deadlines that just made me work harder and better, frankly. So that's how I got into advertising.
So thinking about, moving this toward, business development and whatnot, and what you're doing with One Click, it's an interesting market space, right? COVID having hit, you also are trying to differentiate yourselves in a market that's got Zoom, Google Hangouts, Skype, and whatnot. So how did that thought process evolve, right? Because one of the things we want to talk about is that, the dirty word of creativity versus critical thinking. We kind of chatted about this, before.
Sure. Well, about 4 years ago, I was having dinner with a friend. She had stayed for the weekend at our house, and we were having dinner, and it was her last night. And she said, "Geez, I wish I could do this, more often, but, I wish I could just sort of do it from my home and not have to meet people and stuff like that." And I sort of thought about that, and I thought, well, why not? Why couldn't people who lived alone have dinner with each other over video chat? Why couldn't you you're probably in front of your computer anyway, right? Everybody is. Just bring your salad or whatever it is in front of the computer and find somebody that likes to talk about teacup chihuahuas or, whatever it is that you like to talk about. Football, doesn't matter. And I thought, wouldn't that be fun to do? Because there were a lot of lonely people back then. This is 4 years ago. And I specifically was aiming towards older adults because they were really very vulnerable back then. In fact, people were referring to the loneliness of older adults as an epidemic. Okay. So anyway, fast forward to today, we had no idea that the loneliness factor would be so much worse in 2020. Forever. And all we wanted to do was connect older adults for conversation and to meet new people, but, do it over video and so on and so forth. Well, even I guess 7 months ago, we were still having to talk people into the idea of using video chat. 7 months ago, people were still going like, why would I want to use video chat? Well, of course, now, everyone is on video chat.
Companies are like, we're not doing remote working anymore.
Right. And so what we're trying to do now is like, well, okay, well then use us. But to answer the bigger question is how we differentiate. We're actually quite different from the others. Yes, we're a video chat platform. We can demonstrate that we're doing that right now. But what we are offering is different. We are offering content and opportunities for people to talk to each other and meet new people. On Zoom and FaceTime and Google Hangouts, you can easily connect with people that you know already. But it's very hard to meet new people. And it's also the meetings on Zoom are just that. They're meetings. They happen, here and then they're done, right? And you wait, when's somebody going to invite me to another meeting, right? And for this particular population, we wanted to have lots of opportunities for them to join in conversations with people, even people they didn't know, about topics they like to talk about. So Zoom doesn't offer this. None of those offer this. We are a video chat platform that has opportunities for people. We call ourselves a video engagement platform, not a video chat platform, a video engagement platform.
And it's important how you brand it's important how you brand yourself, right?
Well, it is, and it's not the first time we've pivoted. Everybody pivots. I mean, our thing with the dinner over video chat we called Potluck, and it's still the name of our corporation. But no, and by the way, the funny thing about it is, right now people want to know, hey, could we do this over dinner? And I said, yeah, sure, that's a great idea. Let's try that. But no, so our thing has developed to the point where people, let me start back. The health outcomes of loneliness, the bad health outcomes of loneliness is a very serious matter. We've even, and possibly this, Gavin, but we received a grant 2 years ago from NIH to study whether or not older adults using video chat would have, first of all, would they like it? And would they find it easy? Would they want to keep doing it? And it proved, our grant showed that, yes, they found it easy, and yes, they like doing it. And we actually used that research to make this platform even easier to use, because we used a lot of their feedback and changed things to make it super simple. And we've received another grant, a $2 million grant, to continue this and to actually prove through clinical trials that the efficacy of this works as well as an in-person engagement. So we know that if you socially engage, you have better health outcomes. And so the proof is going to be, does it work the same way on video chat that it would in person? That's really what our clinical trial is coming up to do. So we're going to have, by the end of that, we're going to have validation for this that no one else will have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, one of the things to note about this is that it's, admittedly, this is a lot easier than Zoom. Having to have your own software on taking up space, everybody hates that, right? So whether it's on your phone, right. When the department said, hey, we're going to do Zoom meetings, and they said, well, just put it on your phone. Like, oh God, not another.
Right. I know.
On my phone, how many pictures do I have to get rid of for that?
I know, but look at you. You're young. Can you imagine these older adults? There are so many barriers already. First of all, it's the internet and all this kind of stuff, but they don't like to download. They're terrified of that. They've heard bad things, and some of them are true, but it's just another barrier. It's hard for them, and since everybody has a browser, all they need to do is click on one link, and there they are in a room with other people. So that's the idea behind this.
So in terms of, thinking about, the issue of people saying, hey, I'm not the creative type, and again, not really liking the word creativity, what are the kinds of things that you do to, get your brain to think about things critically, like tools, techniques, things that you do to just kind of make yourself think in a more critical fashion?
Well, first of all, I just want to challenge that whole question of, people saying, I wonder if I'm creative, or, should I be more creative, or something like why? Why would somebody worry about being creative? I mean, and creative about what? For example, I can't sketch worth a darn. I can't even, it's like stick figures. Honestly, it's all I can do. Yet I've been an art director. Okay. And because I surround myself with these great illustrators and graphic designers and people that know how to do this kind of thing. I've got some great ideas, but I haven't the slightest idea how to put them down on paper. So I need other kind of creative people. It's not just idea people, it's artists and graphic designers and production people, to layout people. I can write these fantastic headlines, but it's the layout guy with the typography and everything that makes them sing, So first of all, there's a lot of different kinds of creativity. And so I'm just worried when people, are afraid they're not creative. But I have always been creative. It came very easily to me. My grandfather was an inventor. My mother used to play games when we'd go to restaurants, and she'd say, see that guy over there? What do you think he is in real life? Well, we all came up with stories about who they were, and then someone would join the table. Ooh, that's a spy, or whatever. And this is how I grew up. And of course, it's not a big jump to go to write fiction, with plots and characters. So that comes easily to me. But one of the things that's kind of curious about today is that you asked me, how you start, how you trigger yourself to be creative. One thing, I have a principle. If the idea that you're trying to create something for, if the idea is good, then, like the story writes itself. Lots of people try to write things and, they struggle. I'm sure you've had people that, come to you and say, I'm trying to work on this paper and I'm struggling with it. I just can't get it. I will guarantee you that they don't know what the idea is of the paper. And, an ad guy taught me that one of my first days on the job. If the idea is right, this copy will write itself. So you really, and it works every time. You start at the beginning. What is it I'm trying to do? Am I trying to paint something? Am I trying to write something? Am I trying to do a headline? Am I trying to sell a product? What am I trying to do? If you get that right, then, at least you have a chance to get the energy flowing. The other thing that's interesting is a long time ago when I would write commercials, I'd write down words and phrases about the product. For example, I was in fashion for a long time. And so I was selling shirts and ties and blazers and dresses and stuff like that. And I would write down words about the fabrics or the lifestyle or where you'd wear them, do all these kinds of things. Well, it's exactly what keywords are now. It's the very same thing. And it's for the very same reason, really. You use these words in your creativity, in your writing, or in your headline or something. And that is what attracts people to the product. Same way that you include keywords in whatever it is you're doing online now. It's how people find your stuff. As an author, this industry is every industry has rules on how to, work within it. And, you could be this great creative person. I've got lots of people who come to me now since they know I'm a writer, and they say, oh, I've got this great book. And I'll say, well, tell me about it. And it's like this thing, and it's a kind of a memoir, but, it's a little science fiction, and then, blah, blah. And it's like, the book industry needs a genre, okay? It's got to be a thriller or a murder mystery or, sci-fi. And there's a reason for it. Within those genres, there are rules, a romance has to have a happy ending, and it has to build a certain way, and you got to leave clues, but not too many, and you got to kind of lead them to the end, but you don't want to give the end too soon. I mean, there's a lot of rules about different genre. And people don't understand that they need to, part of being creative is being creative with an end product in mind. Look, you can write a book, any book you want, or a poem, or whatever you want to. And if you don't intend for people to read it, great, knock yourself out, have fun. Same way with people who want to be graphic designers. Fine, unless you have a client, you're not going to know, what the real world needs from you. So part of creativity is understanding the what the requirements are going to be for a job that you're attacking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm thinking about this in terms of some of the things that I've talked about in the segment so far, which is, you've got to have a focus. You can't just keep diverging, but you also, these additional associations help really stretch the boundaries of what it is that you're thinking about. There's materials that you're talking about for the tie, all of these other things that are keywords. Would you say that building a brand is very similar to that, where you've got to have a focus as to who you are as a brand, and then building the associations around it so that people can find your brand and differentiate it from other brands?
Right. The most important thing about a brand is once you've got it right, you've got to stick to it. I mean, that's the idea of a brand, right? I've had a client for 38 years, and I've always considered myself the keeper of the brand, because it's a company, it's an event really that is so creative, and lots of people want to do things with it, and they're all exciting ideas they bring to the table, but they're off brand. Because they just don't understand that there is a brand that they have to follow. And I am not going to let this client fall into a trap. Sometimes even the client will come to me and say, hey, this guy at a cocktail party told me this great line we could use. I said, please, just stop. I listened to it, but yeah, right. Exactly.
So it sounds kind of like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that the skill sets that you use in writing, the skill sets that you use in, film production and whatnot, and in business are very similar kinds of things. If you're going to wind up developing a concept, then it's really a fairly universal approach to it.
Yes. Yeah, I'd have to say so. But like I say, film, books, internet, tech stuff, et cetera, they all have their own rules. All the industries have their own rules. But yeah, I think it's the same thing. In my case, I am by nature a very creative guy. However, I know that all by myself, I'm not that good. I'm good with maybe coming up with the germ of an idea, but I am best when I collaborate. And even right now, I'm working on my second romance novel. Writing a novel is funny. I didn't think it would be hard at all. I've been writing 30-second and 60-second commercials all my life, and so you have a beginning, a middle, and an end for no matter how long the commercial is, and it's tight and you work it out. And I thought, well, I'll just make it bigger. Well, it's just not that not that easy. And particularly if you're writing a book, like I am with clues that are dropped, and you plant bombs here and there, and hope people step on them and they blow up and they have fun going along their journey through the story. And to keep all that keep track of it all is very challenging. I have an assistant that I call at all hours of the day. She probably hates me. But I call her at 8 a.m. I call her on Sunday afternoons, and I say, hey, I've got this idea. What if instead of her doing this, she does that, and then we do this? And this person, this wonderful woman, her name is Gabby, she keeps track of all this, and then she'll say, okay, then we have to go back to chapter 7 and do this here and this. Honestly, you got to have that. Otherwise, it's a mess, and it'll take you forever to get through. It still takes me forever to get through it, but
well, probably the same thing in branding, right? It's like, okay, we want to do this. If we do that, we have to go rethink our distribution mechanism.
Yeah. And what about what about these cohorts over here? Are they going to like this? Is this going to work for them? What about these other people? You have to consider all the angles, really.
Some of the interesting things you just mentioned, right? You're talking about all of these other people. So do you view innovation, ideation as more of a team sport?
For me, it is. I know there are a lot of people that I think can just go away and come up with brilliance.
Just figure it out.
And once I get started, I think I can kind of come up with some fun stuff. I wouldn't call it brilliance, but once Gabby and I talk, for example, and I get it straight in my head because I think I'm not quite right. I said, hey, we killed the villain off too soon. So how are we going to do this? I have this idea. Then I can go off and write. I write by myself. She doesn't write for me. Right. So I do all the writing, but then I come back and say, okay, this is what I did. Now, what do you think? Yeah, anyway, so it's an ongoing collaborative kind of thing. But I did that with advertising. Obviously you do it with film. You just have different players. You've got a director that's got a vision. You have a light guy that is bringing the whole thing together. The lighting is so important. You get somebody that creates the music bed that changes the whole vibe of the movie, and then each actor brings, if they're any good, they'll bring their own perspective to the role. So yeah, it's very collaborative. Everything I do, I think it's crucial. I don't really know how people do it without collaborating.
I certainly
if you do, I bow down to whoever it is, because honestly.
Well, that's good, and that's one of the messages, right, that I want people watching this to really understand is that they're the rare person that can go out and do this alone. That's rare, right? That everybody else really needs give and take and to kind of work with other people in order to figure out how to accomplish the tasks in front of them, to be creative and to innovate.
Right. Yeah. In terms of the book, there's that. It's called the Chekhov gun. You've probably heard it, right? If there's a gun, if you read about a gun in Act 1, it better go off in Act 3.
Yeah.
If maybe your students haven't heard it, but And if the gun goes off in Act 3, it better be on that table in Act 1, or it doesn't make any sense, you know. So
that's all right. I make all kinds of references they don't get.
Yeah,
I mean, you went all the way back to Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, really.
I've gone back to Magnum PI and got nothing but blank stares. Like Tom Selleck, the guy with the mustache. Nope. Have you ever seen Friends? Nope. Okay. Wow.
I know. Wow. Right.
We're beyond
exactly. That. Oh well. At least we channels on TV that show all the old TV shows, so you know maybe they'll run across it.
Yeah, throw some clips into the backgrounds of my videos here.
You know, one of the other things about creativity is I have found, and it's really more about opportunities, because I think you know your client, you know, we're not only talking about having ideas, but you know, how do you implement them? What do you do with these ideas? You know, how do you actually, how you can be entrepreneurial, but somebody has to make the widget, or you know, something has to happen, right, with it. You can't just have it. And you know, one of the things that I have learned is that I need to put myself out there. People, and I think in general, you need to put yourself out there. You can't sit at home and expect some, you know, chance thing to happen, and an opportunity is going to come your way. It might, but it's a whole lot easier if you throw yourself out there and meet people and put yourself in situations where things can happen. And, you know, I have been perfectly happy staying home for years at a time, working on clients I've had or doing things. But the minute I put myself out at a party, maybe I'll go to a party that I've been not wanting to go to, I invariably meet somebody that triggers something. And here's a good example. I was in Scotland a year ago, speaking at the Scottish Writers Association workshop. And one of the people there, well, actually it was in Dublin. One of the people there was a Hollywood producer, and he was listening to pitches from people. And, you know, hopefully he'd pick one. You hope he would anyway. And I met him at the bar. I'd met him at a VIP reception the night before, but we ended up staying in the hotel and we met at a bar. So we started talking. He said, "Hey, so you got a story?" And I said, "Really? You want me to pitch it?" He said, "Sure." So I did. And he said, "I really like that. Let's make a movie." I mean, you know, that doesn't happen, right? But it does. But it does.
Luck favors
well, you're prepared,
right?
Yeah, I was prepared. I mean, I had my pitch.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like the people that actually go out and do, you know, are much more likely. The probabilities just go up.
And I did have a pitch. I mean, I guess it was a 30-second pitch. It's probably a 15-second pitch. And I had worked on it, but, you know, I didn't expect to give it. This was just a random encounter, honestly. And it ends up we're doing 2 movies together. And one of them is the first book. And he's been bugging me lately to do a TV treatment for Summer Thunder, which is my first romance, because he's got a guy out there that is interested and he wants a TV guy. And he wants me to write a TV treatment so he can pitch it. And I've been dragging my feet because, you know, just because.
Wait, so are these both based off
One of them is
romance,
The Dead of
is
Winter,
one
my
them
first
based off-
scary book. 4 young professionals
Gotcha.
from the city picked the wrong weekend to overnight at a pumpkin patch B&B. And then, you know, the rest of it you can imagine. But anyway, yeah, no. So yeah, and then I have another film that he asked me to be part of, which is his finished shooting, and it's sort of in that limbo that movies, you know, end up in sometimes. And of course, right now nothing's happening, and nobody's filming anything except.
At least the filming is done.
My movie for The Dead of Winter is we've got a production company in Budapest that is they're back in business. They're starting to shoot stuff over there now. It's a lot of blockbusters are shot in Hungary, movies and TV, and so yeah, we're planning to shoot, I think, in late fall. So, you know, at least somebody's going to have a movie out there because nobody's been able to produce anything in this climate. You know, even my little movie that we're going to shoot in Hungary has a crew of 150, and you know, that's kind of like no for COVID. So we're lucky that they've solved their problem over there.
Yeah, it's advantageous. Well, Alan Gibson, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure. Best wishes for a happy and healthy
Thank you,
2020.
Gavin. I really enjoyed this.
Here's an activity that I've developed that'll help you practice deeper ideation and associations. You're going to reinvent the classic lemonade stand using the following mashup inputs: a pack of cigarettes, a Nike shoe, and a transformer. What? The goal here, though, is to help you stretch your mind mentally and come up with something that's not currently on the market. Remember, there's no right and there's no wrong answer here. And don't worry that if the first time through you come up with a solution or an idea that isn't that creative. The goal is to work on this over time so that you have more and more mental plasticity. You should also seek to define the deeper meaning of each one of these inputs. What does a lemonade stand for fundamentally? What's the meaning of a pack of cigarettes or a Nike shoe or a transformer? People often worry about doing exercises like this, again, thinking that there's a right or a wrong. How do I do this? Am I allowed to do this? Is this possible? Leave all of that aside and just create. Try to put these things together in the best way that you possibly can to come up with a new business offering. Again, the more you do this, the better you'll become at it. You have 15 minutes. Please pause or turn off this video and then come back once you've been able to identify a new business opportunity and have been able to define what each one of these inputs means. See you in 15. Welcome back. Now, it's not uncommon for people to struggle with this exercise the first few times that they do it. After all, our entire lives, we've really spent being trained how to think in a linear fashion and be very exacting. This is a completely different way of thinking. Do this exercise numerous times in the future. Try to put different inputs together. Think about adding ride sharing to Google, Outback Steakhouse, and Spotify. And again, seek to find that deeper meaning in all these things so that you can create a new and unique product offering. Now, the most superficial thing that you could have done is to say, I'm going to create a lemonade stand that also sells cigarettes, Nike shoes, and Transformer toys. And if this is the path that you chose, you've got a long road ahead of you. But ask yourself, what is the value that somebody is supposed to get out of that bundle of product features put together underneath the same brand? What's the experience that they're supposed to have? What experience would you have? And is this an experience that you want? If your answer to that question is no or I don't know, then you have to think more deeply about the concepts and the things that you're bringing together. Get at that deeper feel word and figure out what it is that people are actually going to want to feel after they've experienced your product offerings. Those who go deeper may associate the lemonade stand with family or wholesomeness, neighborhood, children. Those who think about cigarettes might think about their addictive properties or the fact that they've been used for social acceptance or to look cool. Thinking about Nike shoes might bring connotations of athleticism or drive. Thinking about Transformers might bring up thoughts of customization or personalization. Different people are going to have different responses or thought processes around each one of these items. And none of them are wrong. That's the beauty of thinking this way. Difference is what leads to differentiation. If we all thought the exact same way, nothing interesting would ever happen and nothing new would ever get created. Nothing would speak to us personally, and we wouldn't feel very good about ourselves. We also want to think about bringing additional minds to the table. By adding, again, more and more associations and differences in perceptions, we create a broader range of opportunities from which to choose. So keep doing these exercises. Play games like Snake Oil, where you have to combine two nouns to create a product offering for a certain target segment. Throughout your life and your career, you will benefit greatly from the mental plasticity of playing these kinds of games and expanding the way that you think. In the next segment, we'll talk about product and brand development in order to see how we can take these concepts and move them forward into concerted offerings. Until then, stay classy, San Diego. Okay, I've got my glasses on, my shirt, I'm wearing pants. Gotta loosen up. Let's all loosen up, loosen up. I wanna just loosen up. Yes. Jump the shark. Jump the shark. Me mama. Alright. Wait, what are we talking about? Ideation. Both set up machines that created custom and super engaging personal interactions with customers. I love how this thing's like 8 feet up in the air, and it's about 8 feet up in the air, and I have to turn it on every freaking time I want to use it. It's like precariously perched on a tripod that's suspended from the ceiling and stuck on a desk. Quiet on the set. There's noise outside. I love doing this in my office and not an actual studio. It's my favorite thing. Thinking about this acronym as you ideate will help you to redefine